Pope had been found. St Peter's Square erupted. Grown men were brought to tears, and the nuns went nuts.
Hello, welcome to Media Watch. I'm Linton Besser. And at last, the world's Catholics have reinstalled their fibre optic cable to the heavens, pushing this man aside.
And we're going to interrupt Donald Trump because, as you can see, we have white smoke from the Sistine Chapel chimney.
For 17 days following the death of Pope Francis, the world's media was encamped in the Vatican City, eating gnocchi and waiting to bring news of his replacement to tens of millions watching worldwide.
Oh, white smoke. White smoke.
White smoke.
That's it. We got us a pope.
They've decided.
The Americans, readying to call the moment, wondered, probably a touch too late, whether they'd need a translator.
Will there be simultaneous translation? Do you know that so that people will be able to follow in whatever language?
I don't know, Frank. It's a great question. I don't know.
And scrambled into action when they saw the arrival of long flowing robes onto the papal balcony, though whose robes they were proved a bit much.
It's him. That's him. That is Pietro Parolin, right? Am I right? So the Italian media got it right. Let's listen in. Or is he announcing it?
Oh, wait a minute.
No, he wasn't Cardinal Pietro Parolin, who was one of the favourites, nor was he the Pope-elect. Rather, he was the support act. And when finally he prepared to reveal who had won Earth's holiest election, it was all hands on deck, especially at Deutsche Welle, with the German feed being carried here on the ABC just after 3 in the morning.
Cardinale Prevost.
I'm still trying to decipher. Did you get that?
No. Sorry, that was...
Okay. Robert Francis Prevost. Trepo.
Papao. Sky UK's translator, meanwhile, needed a stronger espresso.
Cardinale Prevost.
Cardinal Prévost.
Almost, though not quite. But over on CNN, they nailed it.
Robert Francis,
Cardinal. The first American Pope has been elected. Cardinal Prevost.
Bingo. Now, I'm not sure what the moral of this fable is. Maybe we're a bit too accustomed to simply toggling the remote to our subtitles of choice, or perhaps that the networks might have thought to bring along a Latin dictionary. After all, Leo XIV is Pontiff version 267, and the Vatican has staged this spectacular once or twice before. And now we travel from Rome to this picturesque South American laneway.
Back where they belong.
No-go nations that are now must-see destinations.
Yes, the cover of The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald's lift out for jet-setters transported readers to this colourful backstreet in Colombia's port city of Cartagena, with this exquisite photograph of the city's 16th century cathedral. But look at it long enough and you become oddly nauseous, because that tree seems to have sprouted directly from the masonry. And is that balcony even attached to the eaves? Oh, and someone's taken a bite out of the pot plant. So we traced the image to its source on this Adobe stock image gallery. And the wider version comes complete with a floating wall lamp, ghostly balconies, and more of that drifting greenery. Yes, as you've already guessed, we discovered this is not a photograph at all, but the work of a machine's imagination. The image was posted by an account dubbed Arnada, one of many turning famous destinations into AI slop, like Buenos Aires in Argentina, a strikingly similar street in Lima, Peru, and this somewhat disturbing Hindu temple supposedly in southern India. All of which come with a disclaimer.
Editorial use must not be misleading or deceptive.
We asked Nine about its use of the fake AI image, prompting a real human being to type up these corrections, which appeared in both mastheads on Saturday. A spokesperson told us,
"Unfortunately, on this occasion, an AI image supplied by a third-party provider was published in the Traveller section. As soon as we became aware, the image was promptly removed from the online version."
Nine is not alone, however, in misleading its readers about what the real world actually looks like. Just take a look at this apocalyptic image used by the ABC to illustrate stories about climate change on no fewer than 4 occasions since 2022. These birds wheeling above a dying planet were not AI generated, but were nevertheless fake and came from a similar stock library, this time owned by Getty Images, where journalists can select their favourite flavour of climate hellscape, with those same smokestacks in a cornfield or in the midst of precious wetlands, or even plumb in the middle of a working mine. All of which are the work of a very creative Baran Özdemir, who says his openly declared composite images are not intended to blow smoke, but rather to
convey conceptual and symbolic messages.
And if publishers choose to use these creations, well then,
it is their editorial responsibility to clarify whether the image is illustrative or documentary.
Which, of course, the ABC had failed to do. After our inquiries, it removed Özdemir's composite image from its online stories, explaining it had not properly labelled the image when it was first downloaded. A spokesperson added,
"We can't commission original photography for the dozens of images required each day. We've been alerting staff to be vigilant to changes in the images available via agencies and the way they're presented."
This vigilance about what is real and what is not has been on the slide in overseas publications too. Can you spot what's wrong with this image from the Boston Globe late last year? Yes, that's right. Our forearms do not contain a third bone. Not yet, anyway. Which the Globe later acknowledged in this correction. And do you need more than a single guess as to why publications might prefer concocted landscapes or anatomically imperfect X-rays? No, of course you don't. They look cheap because they are. And as they bloom across the news, so the value of real photography withers, as Matthew Abbott, the 2020 Nikon Walkley Press Photographer of the Year, explained.
AI-generated images are often sensational and hyper-polished in ways genuine documentary photographs rarely are. I worry that as audiences consume more of these constructed images, the emotional impact of actual photographs will fade.
Dean Lewins, who won the same honour 2 years earlier, told us the use of AI
undermines the trust and authenticity of the masthead or news organisation. The 3 main pillars of journalism are truth, accuracy and objectivity. An AI-generated image, just like AI-generated text, breaks all 3 rules.
News Corp is also snubbing us mere mortals and turning to machines for imagery almost every week, like this traffic jam from hell, or a train going nowhere, or this renewables wasteland, which, it should be said, was all declared to be the work of ChatGPT. The company's AI policy says any use of AI needs a final tick from an editor who must
apply the same editorial rigour and standards to how we use all information sourced from AI technology.
Nine's AI policy for its newspapers says
there must always be a human between any AI tool and our audience. AI will not be used to generate photorealistic images or illustrations for publication, except in cases where the AI-generated nature of the image is the point of the story.
As for Auntie, it's in the final stages of developing a new strategy for the use of AI. Presently, its policies say any significant use of machine learning must be approved by senior staff, disclosed to audiences, and must not mislead. Loathe it or loathe it, it's clear that photoshopped fakes and dystopian AI images are now rooting themselves into the industry of journalism, and the impact may be as profound as it is disturbing. If newspaper and website editors don't fight for the proper and meaningful discrimination between what is real and what is not, they'll be betraying not just their readers and not just their industry, but the very notion of the truth. And now to the news that some NRL fans had spent almost 3 decades waiting for.
Well, hello and welcome to Nine's very special coverage of the unveiling of the National Rugby League's newest franchise. We're coming to you live from HBF Park here.
And that was the Nine network, startling its daytime viewers who last Thursday were enjoying Drive TV's Car of the Year and dragging them, willing or not, to this announcement from the Western Australian Premier, Roger Cook.
The Perth Bears are about to become part of the National Rugby League competition.
After 26 years in the wilderness, the North Sydney Bears are back, albeit a 5-hour flight away in Perth. And Nine's James Bracey was so beside himself, he had to preface his question with a little speech.
We're broadcast live on Nine right around the country at the moment, which emphasises the monumental occasion this is for the sport of rugby league, particularly penetrating an AFL state that is WA. But how important is it to this franchise to be associated with the Bears of the East Coast?
It's extremely important.
Nine even swung a second reporter onto the story, who watched the announcement live in the North Sydney Bear Cave with tearful fans.
We saw the tears rolling out of your eyes.
We've waited since the 15th of October 1999 for this.
As you would expect, our two news channels, Sky and the ABC, also cut live to Roger Cook's press conference. Seven did not, and left unsullied the delectable pleasures of carrot cake murder.
No murder investigation for you, but you can have a good.
And there were more bakery treats for its WA audience too.
Set aside a couple of spoonfuls of this to coat the Madeleines at the end.
Delicious. 7 News in Perth did report the story during its news that day, and this was how its stablemate, the West Australian, had presented the story that morning.
The Bad News Bears. Roar!
Rugby-mad Roger Cook forces WA taxpayers to pay Sydney's NRL reject $65 million to play in Perth.
Ooh, rejects from Sydney. The West knows exactly how to rile a sandgroper. And it just so happens the paper's editor has been happily prosecuting this case for months, dedicating acres of space to what he says is an extravagant piffle.
Roger, mate, stop trying to make rugby league happen. West Australians won't tolerate extravagant spending on a team no one asked for in the first place.
And describing the Premier as
a self-confessed rugby league nuffy, one of a handful of blokes in WA who support rugby league and reckon it's a goer in our state.
The West's subtle opposition did not escape the NRL specialists at News Corporation, which, it should be noted, also has a financial interest via streaming rights in both sports.
The state's leading newspaper, the West Australian, has been vicious in its coverage of the NRL's expansion push to Perth.
And why are the 9 and 7 empires in opposing corners?
The West Australian is owned by Seven West Media, which has control of the Seven Network, the free-to-air broadcaster which inked a $1.5 billion deal with the AFL in 2022. Billionaire Kerry Stokes is chairman of the Seven West Media empire, fanning the flames of NRL expansion discontent.
While the West Australian's owner, Seven West, has free-to-air rights to the AFL, Nine holds the equivalent rights to the NRL, a point not lost on Mr Hot Chips himself, Peter V'landys, Rugby League's chairman.
Well, I think the media coverage has been a bit biased in the sense that the main newspaper here is owned by Seven West Media that has the AFL rights, let's be quite frank. So they don't want us to be here because they realise we're going to be competitive and we're going to take some of their lunch, and we eat a lot.
Never one to shy from a fight, the West's editor, Chris Dorr, bit back the following day, and he told Media Watch,
the idea that somehow our coverage at the West Australian is dictated or even remotely influenced by some fanciful proposition that a rugby league team in Perth would diminish the AFL and therefore somehow have a financial impact on the broadcaster is laughable.
Adding this little dig for the newspaper he used to helm.
I know this is hard to grasp from reading the NRL Las Vegas loving boys at the Daily Telegraph, who inhale every word uttered by their messiah, Peter V'landys, but they have taken you for a ride, if you believe the spin.
Of course, the real game here is being played off the field. Peter V'landys, with his top-shelf connections, has been extending the reach of his NRL empire, not only in the West, but with a new team in PNG, while also trying to cultivate lucrative US betting markets, which means more games, more fans, and more money for the next round of broadcasting rights, negotiations for which are reportedly imminent. These sports TV contracts are so lucrative, they're becoming existential for Australia's distressed commercial TV networks. So it really should come as no surprise that impartial interrogations of the politics of footy might be a little thin on the ground. And that's all from us tonight. Be sure to check us out on iView as well as X, YouTube and Facebook. You can find full statements on our website, and don't forget to send us your tips. I'll see you next week.